From the UC Health Training Center, welcome to Training Camp Live, powered by Ford. Brought to you by BetMGM, Bud Light, UC Health, and by U.S. Bank.
We've traded the sweltering hot days at training camp for a cool and breezy day here at UC Health Training Center. After a historic day Thursday, the Broncos are back on the field for their 11th training camp practice. This team is slowly rounding into game form. A stadium practice on Saturday looms, and who better to bring on the man who's going to have that call tomorrow on the KUSA family of networks. Chad Brown, former Buck and KUSA analyst, will be along in just a moment. He's joining Steve Atwater, but welcome in to UC Health Training Center, everybody. This is Broncos Training Camp Live, powered by Ford. I'm Matt Boyer. Sidney Jones, Phil Milani, Steve Atwater, and former Buff Chad Brown will be along in just a moment. A couple of quick notes to get to. Yesterday, we saw the team come out of the main building, go into the field house, and that was really all we saw of the Broncos on the field. A 2-hour meeting followed that, and head coach Vic Fangio, after that meeting, decided to cancel practice. There were breakout sessions during that meeting. A larger team meeting resulted from that, and the result was the cancellation of training camp practice in favor of a closer examination of social justice reform. The team also mentioned that it's going to take all of us, was part of their statement that they put out through the team. If you want to read the entire statement, you can head to denverbroncos.com. Now, today's practice is going to be pretty typical of some of the practices that we've seen before. You're going to see 4 team periods, 2 7-on-7 periods. So the players are expected to go about 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer with conditions being as nice as they are right now. We showed you the flags at the top, so a lot to look forward to today at training camp practice. We've also been hearing plenty from you guys, Broncos Country, on our live streams, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You guys are crushing our live streams each and every morning. We love hearing from you. If you're on Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag Broncos Camp. Let us know where you're watching from today, which jersey you're thinking about wearing maybe to that first game, or for that first game rather, against the Tennessee Titans. And if you want to reach out to Steve Atwater directly on Twitter, you can reach out at Steve Atwater 27. I'm sure Steve would love to hear that you're wearing that 27 jersey for that first Monday Night Football game. We've also been hearing a lot of questions from you guys about the lack of officials at training camp. How can the team know what they're doing right or wrong if there aren't officials on the field? Well, we have seen Brandon McManus in a referee's jersey, but it's just not the same. Head coach Vic Fangio addressed the fact that referees aren't out here and said, you know what, the classroom learning sessions that the coaches are holding might be just enough.
You know, we do critique them on that. You know, when we think there's a penalty, we pointed out. It's hard to have the officials here. The NFL is not sending out the officials like they usually do to camp. And to bring in college or high school officials, you know, they have to go through the testing. They have to take up spots on your tiers there. So it's harder to get them in. But we're trying to do a good job of that as coaches. And a lot of coaches think they're officials anyway. So we are watching it.
Don't know whether or not there's going to be officials at tomorrow's stadium practice yet, but head coach Vic Fangio said they will get a lot of work with regards to communication, wearing the headsets, where to go. Simulating that game day atmosphere is going to be crucial, especially for these guys who haven't yet been to Empower Field at Mile High. And speaking of that stadium practice tomorrow, let's head down to 27 Hall of Fame Plaza and introduce now Chad Brown. He's standing by, a former Buff, a Pro Bowl linebacker, part of those great Blitzburg defenses in the early 90s. And Steve, I was watching some game tape the other day, and it looks like, you know, you and Chad are pretty friendly down there right now, but those Steeler-Broncos battles back in the early and mid-90s, you guys were going at it.
Yeah, we had some battles, but we were on the same side of the field, so we never really went up against each other. Of course, we wanted our teams to win. Chad and I, we've always had a really good relationship, and I'm happy you're here with me today, Chad. I appreciate you coming out.
Fantastic to be here. Now, Steve and I, we had the same agent, so although we were, enemies on the field, I had known Steve even before my rookie year. So, Steve, the nice guy that you see Steve being today was the same guy he was 25 years ago. So I wasn't as intimidated by Steve as those wide receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers were.
Oh, I hope so. Those guys did a lot of blocking on me, though. I didn't like that. Chess, how you been, man?
I've been good. Life has been treating me well. My last season was 07, so I am far enough removed from being on the field that I no longer desire to be on the field.
Yes, I got you. So are you, now I know at one time you had a snake business, probably still have it. You still had your reptiles, what do you call it, snakes or what?
I had a reptile breeding company. It was called Pro Exotics Reptiles.
Okay.
And I sold reptiles literally all over the world. And I
Okay.
produced thousands of baby reptiles a year. Late in 2011, I had a fire at my facility.
I remember that.
And I shifted from breeding the live reptiles to becoming a reptile shipper.
Okay.
So I've got a company called Ship Your Reptiles for folks who are breeding reptiles and selling reptiles. They need to ship them to their customers.
Wow.
And I developed the same thing for the aquatic pet space. So for people who breed fish and corals and aquatic plants, I have Ship Your Aquatics.
Wow.
Soon to launch will be Ship Your Flora for people who do that same thing in the plant world.
Okay.
So, I'm busy working with FedEx every single day. No longer working with the animals, but working with other people's animals.
Oh, okay, very nice. So someone were to come to your house, they wouldn't see a snake.
Oh, I've still got a couple.
Oh, come on, Chad. Man, get rid of the snakes, man.
Just like football never leaves your blood, once you're a reptile person, that never leaves you either. So I've got a couple of snakes in my office. I've got a 25-year-old lizard actually in my workout room at home right now.
That was scared the best out of me.
As big and as intimidating as you are, you're going to be scared of a little lizard, Steve?
Yes, little lizard with some strong jaws. I know, right? So, Chad, University of Colorado grad, you played with some of my good friends, Alfred Williams, Tom Ruin, Ronnie Bradford.
Oh, yeah. It was a tremendous experience up there. A lot of great players, a lot of great coaches. Sometimes occasionally I'll pop in one of those bowl games we played in, particularly that Orange Bowl where we won the national championship. And the amount of guys who we had who played in the NFL
Unreal.
is really unreal. And when you're tied up in it, this is just your expectation. I became a Colorado Buffalo. Well, Alfred gets drafted, and Canavis gets drafted, and all these guys. And then, it's my senior year, and Deion Figures goes in the first round. I go in the second round. Ronnie Bradford gets drafted later on. So I think from that Orange Bowl defense, all 11 guys who started that game played in the NFL. How amazing is that?
That is amazing.
So Coach McCartney, certainly a fantastic coach, but I think we all recognize one of the easiest things to make you a good coach is get some great players.
Oh, yeah.
And we certainly had great players up there.
That's my motto there, boy. Without great players, hey, you can have the best system, you can have the best coaches, but probably not gonna work as well.
Right. So yeah, we were lucky to have both great coaching and tremendous players, and it was a very, very special time up there. And all the time people ask me, what's going to happen at CU, and I just somehow hope for a return to the glory days that were, there when I was there.
Right. Showing A.J. Bouye on the screen there. Did you like the acquisition, I guess? The signing of A.J. Bouye?
It's always so tricky in free agency because teams usually don't give up guys in their prime. They are willing to give up on guys who maybe have slipped or suffered from some injury. So A.J. Bouye is one of those things where we need to see it in game action. If he can play like he played a couple of years ago, then it's a tremendous signing. If he's who he was last year, then it's not as good of a signing. And time will tell on that. This is such a interesting season because of the lack of preseason. So,
but I look at the Jacksonville situation, and for me, from afar, now I don't know this to be 100% fact, but it seemed like there was a lack of leadership down there. A lot of young guys with a lot of talent, and sometimes, man, guys in those types of environments, they don't play up to their potential. And you see, Jalen Ramsey, he's no longer there. Mm-hmm. A.J. Bouye is no longer there. Several other guys, not necessarily wanting to be there. They had a coaching change now, so things may be different now, but that's kind of my perspective on it. So I think sometimes guys just need to be in a new environment to be able to reach that potential.
I would agree with that, and that's why I think it's a wait and see kind of thing. I think you cannot reasonably just expect A.J. Bouye to plug him in and to be what he was 3 or 4 years ago, because there's a little bit of a question mark. And the player that he was a couple of years ago, let's not forget about that tremendous defensive line that Jacksonville had a couple of years ago. So if Von Miller is Von Miller from a couple of years ago and Bradley Chubb recovers from the knee injury, and A.J. Bouye has that constant pass rush that he can count on that he had in Jacksonville, then maybe we see that A.J. Bouye again. So it's going to be those kinds of pieces that will dictate his success rather than just, hey, we brought this guy in, we expect him to be seamless and become the player he was 3 years back.
Yeah, and you don't see too many DBs that thrive without a good D-line, good linebackers.
You know, it's funny because on the offensive side of the ball, sometimes they talk about wide receiver being one of those positions that's dependent upon other things. I think defensive back play is certainly dependent upon the pass rush.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I played with the Hall of Famer, and it's always great to be on the set with another Hall of Famer. Congratulations to you once again. I know I've told you many times. But with Rod Woodson. And when we were rolling as a defense in Pittsburgh, Rod knew he could literally count in his head 1, 2, 3, and he could take that receiver's first break or first move and anticipate the ball was coming out. So some of those amazing Rod Woodson interceptions that he returned and took to the house for a touchdown were based on his confidence in the pass rush.
Yes.
I'm not covering double moves, and I'm not covering for 5 seconds. I'm covering for 3 seconds, and I'm breaking when this receiver breaks, and I'm expecting the ball to be there. And a lot of times, Rod was right. The ball was there, and he was able to take it to the house based on the confidence and the comfort in the pass rush.
It's called squatting.
Yes. Or in the football terminology, in the defensive backroom terminology, you're going to squat on that because we expect our rush to get there.
Right. I had a lot of days like that, man, and that's good. And hopefully, like I said, Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, Jarrell Casey, Shelby Harris, those guys are able to get to the quarterback frequently.
You know, I neglected to mention Jarrell Casey. I've done a number of coaching internships in the NFL, and one of them was with the Tennessee Titans. Mm-hmm. And so I had a chance to see Jarrell Casey up close for that entire training camp. I don't think there was a harder worker on that Tennessee Titans defensive line group. You know, sometimes as a veteran player, when it's one-on-one pass rushes, you get your one rush in, and you move off to the side.
Oh, yeah.
Coach would have to hold Jarrell back because he wanted to get as many rushes as he could in those one-on-one situations. So he's that kind of guy. He's wired that way as a football player. So, you know, I expect a tremendous year from Jarrell Casey here just because I know how he mentally works as a football player, and he recognizes it's the hard work during the week. It's that the game is won Monday through Saturday. The game is not just won on Sunday when you show up, because he puts in that work every single day.
I'm glad you brought that up, because as guys get later in their careers, can they still go as hard as they used to go in their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth year?
You know, there's a fine line between working harder and working smarter.
Yeah.
And I think you need to figure out where that is. You need to rest. You need to recover. And as an older player, it takes you longer to recover.
You still got to work when you're working, though.
At the same time, you have to do something every day that works to keep that sword super sharp.
Yeah.
And
nice. Well said.
And that's finding that line where it's going to be for you, because you do have to put in the work. It's going to be different for every player. Now, for me, you know, luckily I was in New England, and Belichick had a lot of older players by the time I was in year 13, 14, and 15, and recognized, let's dial it down a little bit for you, or maybe we'll give you a day off because you went so hard yesterday. So sometimes that is dependent upon the coaches to protect the guy from himself.
Yeah.
And just as that defensive line coach in Tennessee was trying to protect Jarrell from overworking himself, Bill Kolar may have to do that here with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, though. You rather have to do that than to say, come on, man, pick it up.
Yes. Yeah. As a coach, you know, if I got to coach you to be more aggressive, that's not a good thing. If I got to coach you to have more effort, that's not a good thing. I'm looking to ask you to turn those things down rather than turn them up.
Right. And we may have to be that way with Von Miller this year. You read some of the stuff that you heard some of the stuff that he said, you know, with the time kind of going through the pandemic and having chance to reflect and saw, what was the last drive?
Yep.
Yeah, the last drive.
Last Dance.
Last Dance,
yeah,
okay.
Michael Jordan,
Last Dance
yes.
with MJ, yeah. And then with Kobe Bryant, everything that happened with Kobe Bryant, just having a new outlook. And I've seen him. He's been out here working. He's putting it in.
It's always interesting, I think, as a player when you kind of get a look at your football mortality and you realize that I don't get to do this forever.
Right.
And I don't like what I put on tape last year.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a harsh moment. And Bill Cowher used to say in Pittsburgh after a tough loss, I'm going to go home and I'm going to look at the man in the mirror. And it seems kind of cliche, and of course it's a Michael Jackson song and all that. But I think Von Miller had some of those man in the mirror moments this offseason because, yeah, I mean, there was certainly talk in the media, and Coach Fangio has been pointed at sometimes talking about Von and his expectations and how he fell a little bit short. So those man in the mirror moments can be great for a player who realizes, I don't get to do this forever. I have to find a way to step it up. And the things I've done in the past, I've got to do them a little differently to expect the kind of success I had before. If Jarrell Casey can be that guy, if Von Miller can be that guy, and if Bradley Chubb can, just return to form.
Yes.
The very first question you asked me about A.J. Bouye, that takes away most of the doubt about that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone out there in Broncos Country with the Facebook account. Now, that should be everybody. Everybody got to be on Facebook, right? Who's not on Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook.
Okay, except for Chad Brown.
Twitter only. Twitter only.
Hey, let us know you're out there. Go to our Facebook poll. Select the player that you want us to focus our cameras on 5 to 10 minutes or so. I'm going to announce the player who receives the most votes in the poll a little later in the show. Now, the players for today's poll are Jake Butt, fourth year. Why did I say first year? He's out here playing like he's in his first year. Looking good. Jake Butt, fourth-year tight end, played at Michigan, Matt Boyer's alma mater. Butt started all 3 games that he played with the Broncos in 2018, but he missed both the 2017 and 2019 seasons due to injury. Jake Butt's looking good.
He is, but the lack of preseason games, the lack of physical contact. I don't think anybody's got a doubt about who Jake Butt can be when he's healthy.
When he's healthy, right?
But he's got to find a way to stay healthy, and you can make it through a practice and a pandemic-style training camp. But can you be available for 16 weeks? And Steve, it's not are you available on Sunday, but are you available every Sunday?
Right.
And, Jake Butt was one of the top tight ends in college football before that unfortunate knee injury in that bowl game. And it's been a struggle to get back to where he is now. With the, expanded practice squad and now with the new practice squad eligibility rules, it'll be interesting to see, is he healthy enough to be on the active roster? Do they put him on the practice squad maybe to give him a little bit more time to recover? But more than anything, I think it's just a tremendous human story.
Yes.
So much has been made about Alex Smith and what he's gone through trying to get back on the field. 3 ACLs for a tight end, particularly in such a rapid fashion for a guy like Jake Butt. I've got just a tremendous football, heart for that guy to come out and keep doing this again. I know how hard it is to recover from injuries, and I think like the rest of Broncos country, and just hopeful that he's able to get back to full speed and proud of what he's been able to accomplish so far.
I agree. The second player for our poll, Lloyd Cushenberry III, the rookie center who was drafted in the 3rd round this year's draft from Louisiana State University. Born and raised in Louisiana, this guy has 3 rings for 1 championship. The SEC championship ring, a national title ring, which is issued by LSU, and then a college football playoff ring. Come on, man. How do you get 3 rings from winning 1 championship?
Wow. That's I only got 1 ring for winning the national championship with the Buffs, but I do have that ring with a number 1 in diamonds on it.
That's all you need there.
I look at that and it just brings me a lot of pride with that thing. Lloyd Cushenberry is a very interesting guy because, the center position a lot of times is one of experience and knowledge because a lot of times those guys are asked to make so many of the line calls. So to have a rookie come in there and do that, not only snap the ball, but do the line calls. And let's not forget, he's got a young quarterback behind him.
Yeah.
So those guys and their communication about where we're setting the front and who's the Mike linebacker and all those kind of things we see those guys do, that's a critical piece to that entire offense's success. So to put that kind of trust in a rookie, if he ends up being the starter, that will show what kind of player and background Lloyd Cushenberry comes with entering the NFL.
Got to be a smart guy to play the center position anyway, but to come in, under these circumstances and win that job, big time.
Big time, for sure.
All right, third player for our Facebook poll, Royce Freeman, the third-year running back. He was a third-round pick in 2018, the same year that Philip Lindsay was a college free agent. Royce played all 16 games last season, finished the season 496 yards rushing on 132 carries. He also had 43 catches for 256 yards. Just think about Royce Freeman. He's looking good out here.
He is looking good. I've seen a number of highlights. I remember Royce from Oregon. Obviously, I do a lot of broadcasting with the Pac-12 network, so I saw him play. Thought he was a tremendous college football player. Obviously, coming to this camp, so much of the running back talk was just focused on Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. And a lot of times for a guy like Royce Freeman, we talked about Von Miller staring his football mortality, in the face. For Royce Freeman, sometimes when you're the forgotten man, that can be a tremendous motivator. Okay, you guys take all that hype, you take all that media attention. I'm just going to put my head down and I'm going to work.
Right.
And you guys can steal all the spotlight, but I want to show the coaches that I deserve to be on this football team. And just like you can't have too many good pass rushers, you certainly can't have too many good running backs.
I agree, especially with, going to get banged up. Somebody's going to get banged up this year.
We're not even, very far into camp, and now Melvin Gordon has missed practice. So it just goes to show you that you need depth in that running back room. So he may be the forgotten man publicly, but I know the Bronco coaches are watching what he brings every day because they expect if something goes down, something goes wrong at that position, we get somebody nicked up, we got a guy we can count on not just to run the football, but you mentioned those catch numbers.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why Melvin Gordon was brought in was to increase the number of catches from the running back position. Well, he's already done that.
Yes. And the fourth player on our Facebook poll, Tim Patrick. Number 81, the third-year wide receiver who was a free agent out of Utah. He saw action in 8 games in 2019. He finished the season, the 2019 season, with 16 catches for 218 yards. We know Tim Patrick, he's going to work. He's going to do whatever he can. I remember having Ross Smith on here, and Ross said, I wasn't a receiver. I was a football player. And that's what Tim Patrick is. He's a football player. He's going to do whatever he can to make this football team. He doesn't complain about going down on special teams. He doesn't complain about, being tired, running routes. He's a football player, and I love that he's on this team.
Again, going back to the Pac-12, played at Utah. And Kyle Whittingham, the coach at Utah, he wants football players. There's no divas on that Utah team. And they ran the ball a lot. The receivers are expected to block. And they play really good special teams there. So a lot of times those starters were on special teams. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that about Tim Patrick, considering where he comes from. And then when you think about him as a receiver, a guy who's 6'4", with the shorter defensive backs, he's already a mismatch from a size perspective. And we've seen Cortland Sutton use that size. Tim Patrick he has that ability as well to be that jump ball kind of guy and just, outsize the defensive back in front of him.
Out-athlete him.
And we saw him come on, late last year, particularly with Drew Lock. So it's going to be a interesting thing to see how he plays into it. Another one of those guys who could possibly be forgotten from a media perspective. You draft the 2 rookies. You bring in Jerry Jeudy. You bring in KJ Hamler. They take up all the ink. I think Tim Patrick could be a guy like Royce Freeman. Just keep your head down. Keep doing what you do, and you will earn your opportunity to be on the field.
Well said. Again, hit that Facebook poll. Vote. Jake Butt, Lloyd Cushenberry III, Royce Freeman, and Tim Patrick. And again, we'll focus the cameras on whoever's the winner of that poll for 5 to 10 minutes or so. And you'll be able to see what these guys are doing. You see what they're doing in camp. Are they making plays? Are they getting beat? They'll make plays.
They'll make plays. They'll make plays.
It's fun stuff. Chad.
Yes, sir.
You played outside linebacker and inside linebacker. Which was more difficult?
Oh, well, as an inside linebacker, the action can come to you from either side. As an outside linebacker, typically I was on the line of scrimmage on one side, so the action was only coming to me from one side.
Oh, so outside was easy.
Outside was mentally easier, but I think the physical demands of the position are greater.
Okay.
As an inside linebacker, I think you can get by with savvy and smarts and football IQ and intelligence, whereas the outside linebacker, at some point, it's just going to require you to be a physical freak.
Yeah.
And, for Von Miller to put his hand in the chest of a 320-pound offensive tackle and push him, not even just push him back, but lift that guy off the ground, most inside linebackers don't have that kind of ability.
Yeah.
But you put Von Miller on the inside, and it could be a pulling guard, it could be a fullback, it could be a wham block from a tight end. That's not exactly Von's skill set. So, they're actually two different skill sets. I was very lucky to get trained in both at the University of Colorado. So when I got to the Pittsburgh Steelers and I played inside and I played outside, I was already familiar with that.
I think you were playing inside when I saw you dive over the line of scrimmage. Tackle, I'm not sure who it was, the running back or the quarterback.
Well, when I got to Pittsburgh, we had Greg Lloyd, who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And then we had Kevin Green, who is a Hall of Famer. So in order to get on the field, I played inside linebacker. And the same thing happened to me at the University of Colorado. I was recruited as an outside linebacker, but I get there. We've got Alfred Williams, who becomes a college football Hall of Famer and a Buckus Award winner,
yes,
and Kanavis McGee, who was on that path until he, hurt his ankle and really kind of, curtailed his success as a Buff. But again, I had to find a way to get on the field. So you talked about Tim Patrick being a football player. I've kind of always looked at myself as a football player. You put me someplace, I'm going to figure this position out and try to earn my way on the field. I've always said my best position was probably tight end.
That's going to be one of my questions a little later, but hey.
But
you think you could have been a great tight end?
But what stopped me from being a tight end was tight ends only earned this much. I know we're not on camera, so you can't see my fingers, but they're not very far apart.
Oh, no.
But linebackers earned this much, so I thought I'll take that money.
Okay, all right.
And pass on what I think could be my best position. I think I could have been Shannon Sharp-esque as a tight end. Not a true in-the-line, giant blocking tight end, but a guy who can run some savvy routes.
Good hands?
Oh, man, my hands were tremendous, man.
Nice.
But, the inside linebacker, outside linebacker thing was always fun for me to be able to do both. But if I got to pick one, making a third down stop can bring half the crowd to their feet. Making a sack on third down, that brings everybody, the crowd to their feet. I'm taking that one.
That's right. Hey, so Chad Brown, you're going to be with Rod Mackey and Mike Kliss. You're going to be broadcasting, following the practice live tomorrow, the stadium practice tomorrow. And you can find it 7 p.m. on KTVD Channel 20. And we're going to toss it over to Sydney. Sydney, how's it going?
Hey, Steve, it's going great up here. It's time to give away one of our social media giveaways today, like we do on our live show every single day. And today's prize we're giving away from Tuesday's show, which is Assigned Football by you, Steve Atwater, and Brandon Stokely. And that prize is going to Tommy Williamson. Congratulations, Tommy. Now, Broncos Country, we're giving a prize away every single day. So don't you worry if you didn't get selected for that one. The prize we're giving away today is a good one. It's Assigned Football by Steve Atwater again, and Von Miller this time. A really good one here. If you want to be selected for that, you can do so by following the Broncos on Twitter and going and retweet the post about this prize. We'll be announcing the winner on Monday's live show, so make sure to tune in again. And another way to get featured on our live show is to tweet at us using the hashtag Broncos Camp. We'll be featuring those tweets throughout the rest of training camp, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. And another day of training camp means another Broncos Camp confessional. And today we got to talk to Deontay Spencer, who detailed his camp experiences so far in the dynamic skill sets in the receiver room.
Hey, what's up? I'm Deontay Spencer, wide receiver, kick returner, number 11, and these are my camp confessions. Oh, the competition has been crazy. Like today, the defense, they were talking noise and they were trying to get after it. So we was chirping back a little bit. Maybe had some little altercations out there, but we keep it PG. We keep it PG, or we try to. Everybody's been bonding great. Cortland, Jerry, Judy, Deshaun, Tim, Pamela, everybody's in that room. Everybody has a different skill set and everybody brings something different to the table. And I feel like that's what makes us dynamic and special. So everybody's been meshing. Every day, we've getting better, getting crisp, and hopefully, it can translate into the season. I'm Deontay Spencer, and thanks for watching my camp confessionals.
A lot more where that came from. If you want to see Deontay's full camp confessional, you can find it on our website, denverbroncos.com, and our social media channels. We were able to wire up another player to give you all at home a closer look to what's happening down on the field. And today we are featuring outside linebacker Bradley Chubb.
Yeah. Double the coming out, double little. Hey, Rockets on 3, 1, 2, 3. Nobody listening. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Show me something 3. Let me get one of that 3. Let's go, baby. Let's go, Joseph. Bryce. Jarrell. AJ. Jack. Accept the challenge. Shelby. They didn't even block me. Yep. My fault, Leak. Double the cup and I'm doubling up. No, that's me. They weren't trying to give it to me, Coach. They didn't want to give it to me.
Always fun hearing from Bradley Chubb. Now, I know all of you at home can't attend training camp in person this year and see some of your favorite players like Bradley, but you're doing a great job on our virtual fan cam every single day, cheering these guys on as they step out onto the field. And you did a great job again this morning. Take a listen to what all of you had to say to some of your favorite Broncos.
Yo!
Yeah!
Jared!
Always fun seeing all of your faces on our virtual fan cam. Now, I know with COVID this year, the school year is looking a lot different than it normally is, but to help, the Broncos have partnered with Volunteers of America, King Soopers, and 9 News to help fundraise and distribute school supplies to different school districts, families, and students all across the state of Colorado. And for more information on that and to learn how to support, you can visit the website on your screen. All right, Broncos fans, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, you'll be joined again by Steve Atwater and Chad Brown.
Training Camp Live, powered by Ford, is brought to you by All Copy, Empower Retirement, King Soopers, and FanDuel.
All right, welcome back to Training Camp Live, powered by Ford. My special guest, Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, the last segment we were talking about you playing outside linebacker, inside linebacker. Well, Justin Hollins is kind of going through that same thing. He's played outside, now he's back to inside. What are some obstacles he's going to have to overcome? What can make it easier for him to make that adjustment?
He's a taller guy, which I think suits him well for the outside linebacker spot, but I think sometimes height at the inside linebacker spot can be to your detriment. So you've got to learn to play with a really low pad level, taking on those guards, taking on those fullbacks, taking on those tackles when they're blocking down on you. Height is not going to be your friend. You can use those long arms to keep those guys off of you, but you got to find a way to play lower. And then, again, as I talked about it in the last segment, as an outside linebacker, you're kind of just looking in one direction, so your vision is kind of narrow, almost like those blinders they put on racehorses.
Right.
But when you play inside linebacker, you can't have those blinders on because the action could be coming from
you got to expand the vision, huh?
A number of different ways, not just the blocking schemes, but once you move into a passing down, you could be taking a receiver on a crossing route across the field. That's something you're probably never going to do as an outside linebacker. Right. So your ability to expand your vision and have a much wider set of keys that you're reading, that's probably the most difficult mental step to take, moving from outside to inside. Moving, I think, from inside to outside is easier because you're already used to, as an inside guy, having that wide vision. All you're trying to do is now narrow it as an outside guy. So that's something that I think is probably the most difficult hurdle to get over, is how do I really expand my vision and see all these different things I need to see as an inside linebacker. And it's
without lining up at 10 yards.
Yeah, right. Because you got to be able to do that about 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. And then there's also some additional conversation that needs to happen. And we just watched, they're doing a little bit of a drill right now, and I just watched Justin Hollins. They're doing a little bit of a pass drop drill right now. And there was a crossing receiver coming, and Justin didn't have him in his vision. He's actually being coached up on that right now. So that's the thing he has to understand is, I've got to expand my vision, and my responsibility literally could be coming from either side of the field, and I need to understand that when the play starts and have that kind of wide scope of vision. You put that little fisheye lens on your camera phone so you can see things in a wider perspective.
Yeah.
You have to do that as an inside linebacker as well.
Yeah. How tough is that, especially – well, he played some last year, so I think that will definitely help. And he played in the same defense. But still a difficult thing to do, though.
It is a difficult thing to do, and I don't think everybody can make that transition. But from a pure value perspective, when every roster spot is so critical, if you can have a guy who can play inside and outside, he creates value for himself as a football player, not just here with the Denver Broncos, but all across the league, because now we got a guy who can play either spot. Just as there's usually a swing tackle who can play left or right tackle, there's usually a guy who can play guard and center in that offensive line room.
Right.
It's important, I think, to have one of those guys in your linebacker room who could play both spots given an emergency type of situation. So Justin Hollins can really carve a niche for himself in the NFL if he can become a capable, confident guy at both spots.
Yes. All right, Chad, you cover tight ends. You covered lots of tight ends.
Lots of them.
Lots of them.
Good ones. Well, again, my Seattle Seahawks used to be in the AFC West. I saw Shannon Sharp twice a year.
Right.
I saw Tony Gonzalez twice a year.
Woo!
So, yeah, Hall of Famers. I'm well aware of the difficulties that comes with defending a really good tight end.
And you've been to some Pro Bowls, so you know how to do it.
Thank you.
Like, what kind of technique did you – mentally, what did you tell yourself when you played against those guys? And, what kind of technique did you use?
My number one thing when I was matched up man-on-man with those guys was to know from the start of the play, it was already a mismatch from a physical perspective.
A mismatch?
For them.
Okay.
They are faster. They know where they're going. in Tony's case, taller than I was. In Shannon's case, not only faster, but physically stronger than I was. So I had to understand, number one, what their routes were during film study. And then this is going to be a good word that you would hear in the DB room a lot. Leverage. Where was my leverage? Where was my help?
Right.
I can't expect to take this guy everywhere on the field, but if I'm playing inside linebackers, maybe it's a nickel or dime defense, and I'm playing inside linebacker, and Shannon Sharp or Tony Gonzalez are lined up outside of me, I'm going to play with inside leverage. I'm going to be responsible for any time he runs an inside breaking route. If he breaks outside, I'm expecting my help to be there.
So when he breaks outside, you're not going to run and try to get out there, and then he beats you to the inside.
Right. I have to play with inside leverage. I'm responsible. Even if he fakes out and comes back in, that's still my job as the inside leverage guy. There's someone else who has the outside leverage. So understanding the defense and how it was structured was really critical to my success in dealing with those kind of guys. Because if you ask me to cover this guy all over the field, one-on-one, man-to-man, of course he's going to beat me. He's faster. He knows where he's going. But if I play within the defense and I use my help, that gives me a tremendous leg up. And I saw some snaps last year from Todd Davis, who, I think got better as the season went on, dealing with tight ends and running backs. The snaps where he knew where his leverage was and played with his proper leverage and played to where his help was, he did a tremendous job. But, sometimes as linebackers, we get a little maybe undisciplined, or we're expecting the ball to come out, and you decide, well, let me peek back at the quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
You take your eye. They tell you at the airport, don't take your eyes off your luggage. When you're playing man-to-man coverage, don't take your eyes off your man. That's your luggage. Keep your eyes on your man. He peeked back at the quarterback, lost his leverage, and then second thing you know, Travis Kelce's making a 15 or 20-yard completion on you.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the discipline. All right. Chad, our fans have spoken. They've picked the player that they want the cameras to follow for a little bit. Who do you think they picked, Chad?
Man, we got some pretty good choices here. But I think the guy who's probably going to be a very critical piece of Drew Lock's success, so I'll go with that guy, Lloyd Cushenberry.
Chad! Hey, give me a thumb. There we go, Chad. Very nice. That's right. Lloyd Cushenberry. The cameras are going to follow him. Come on, man. Look at those big arms, big thighs, big legs. And he's a smart guy who can get that offense going. He played really well at LSU. Again, if you win 3 rings for one championship, you're doing something right. And I saw Lloyd Cushenberry at the Senior Bowl, and he was going up against Javon Kinlaw, and he was handling his business. And Javon Kinlaw, drafted by the San Francisco 49ers, defensive tackle. He's a big guy, big, strong guy, and it was a great battle. And I was impressed that he could even handle him.
Yeah, I don't think that the transition for Lloyd Cushenberry, and now we're seeing him coming out with the starters with the one offense right now. I don't think that the biggest transition for him is going to be the actual play in dealing with, the nose guards and defensive tackles in this league. It's all that cerebral stuff that a center's asked to do. Point out the mic, make the offensive line calls when the defense moves. Get everybody on the same page. That's probably going to be a bigger hurdle for him. I know they ran a very pro-style attack at LSU. There's a reason why Joe Burrow was the number 1 pick in the draft, but they ran that very NFL-style offense. So he's got a leg up, I think, on most college centers with understanding what's going to be asked of him.
Yeah, and he blocked for the Kansas City Chiefs running back, Hilaire. What's his full name? Clyde Edwards Hilaire.
Yes.
And he's creating big holes for those guys. And I think the center is kind of the second quarterback of the offense.
Have you, Steve, spent much time around offensive linemen? It's a very interesting group to be with. You know, and I'll make some stereotypes here. You know,
I had Tyler Columbus on yesterday. We were talking about that a little bit.
You know, if you get on the team plane, chances are your wide receivers aren't reading some really thick, giant books. Offensive linemen, they're reading some thick books. Those are some smart, intelligent guys. And I think that center position particularly, I've always thought those guys of a group that's probably the smartest group on the football team. The centers are typically the smartest guys of that group. So yeah.
Yeah, the guards, Dalton Reisner and Grant Blasco, same way,
Yeah. And I think having those guys around them, Dalton Reisner certainly came on and played well last year as a rookie. He'll be able to help out Lloyd, and then Glasgow on the other side. A wise veteran should be able to do the same thing. Nice rush by Bradley Chubb.
Yes.
Coming around the edge. And, you know, I did not have an ACL during my career as a pass rusher, but I had a few ankle injuries, and that was always the test for me if I was back from my injury. If I could bend the edge and go around that edge full speed, I felt like my legs were underneath me. And that time, looking at Bradley Chubb, nice job coming around the right side of the defense to put some pressure on Drew Lock.
Yeah, Garrett Bowles was blocking them there. Did get around the edge there. I think that was a sack.
If it wasn't a sack, at least he got Drew Lock off the spot. You know, sometimes I think we put too much credence on the actual sack number and lose track of it. It's just important to ask the quarterback to reset his feet, to take his eyes off the receivers down the field. Now he's worried about the pass rush. If we can do that, we begin to affect the quarterback. So sacks are great because, you know, if you sack the quarterback, you have a chance to cause a fumble. And what if it's third down? That ends the drive and all those kinds of things. But also important is just getting that quarterback to move his feet, reset his feet, get him off his comfortable spot.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
nice.
man, Rush Freeman, he's moving those legs. He's looking faster this year to be.
That was a really nice, close quarter run. Some running backs, in close quarters, they want to just go downhill. That was some patience by him, allowing his blocks to get set up, kind of hopping from side to side, waiting for those blocks to set up, and then getting through the hole with some tempo. Nice job by Royce Freeman.
What do you think about Levante Bellamy? He's a running back out of Western Michigan.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings tomorrow in the stadium. I'm not exactly sure what the tempo of all things will be, but you've been involved in those stadium practices. The tempo turns up.
Different environment. It feels like a game.
Yes, and it's a little bit of a game preview because there's no preseason games this year due to the pandemic. So this is an opportunity for those guys to get into the stadium and turn it up a bit. And I'm interested to see what he can do in that type of environment when everything's ratcheted up a bit, and it's not probably going to be so many scripted things. It'll be offense calling their play versus defense calling their play, some unscripted segments. So that'll be good to see.
Triple coverage there.
Yeah, he threw that, in the words of Bill Belichick, he threw that ball into a team meeting.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, he looked back like, whoa. We got too many guys over here.
Yeah, and like 5 of them were wearing white shirts.
Oh, man, that's funny. Yeah. Now, do you think the team not practicing yesterday, I think everyone agrees that it was for a good call. Good. It was a good call there, not practicing yesterday. But do you think them not practicing will impact them because, we got a shortened schedule as it is? How much do you think it'll impact them?
It's always so difficult when there's a large societal thing like that that affects so many guys personally on the team. It's, what kind of practice could you really have in that circumstance?
Right.
Particularly when, you knew what was going on in the NBA and the WNBA. Baseball and hockey took some practices and games off. Other teams in the NFL were also using yesterday to, have meetings and conversations and doing all that. So I understand the pure football part of it, in that every snap, every rep is critical and important. But sometimes I think it's good to get together and have those conversations, because that helps you build up your team as well. Because creating a football team is more than just reps and X's and O's and practice snaps on the field. You're trying to create a team. You're trying to create a bond amongst those brothers. Mm-hmm. You're trying to create a culture within within the facility, that we're all on the same page and we're all here to help each other. So,
and have you ever been on a great team where you don't have that closeness amongst your teammates?
I've never been on a great team that didn't have that.
Right.
So whether I'm going back to my high school days where we won 32 games in a row, or going back to being 32 games in a row, back-to-back championships.
You had to get that in there, right?
Mighty, Mighty Mustangs, John Muir, Mighty, Mighty Mustangs.
I love it.
But going back to Colorado Buffaloes, which we talked about earlier in the show, and then, at my various stops in the NFL, the best teams were always the teams that were the closest and had a respect and that agape kind of love for each other. Yeah. So I think days like yesterday can go far in providing that kind of environment. And I know from a coach's perspective, you can't help but lament the missed reps or the things you were hoping to install, but hopefully the good will come of it from the culture and team building side of it.
Man, I couldn't have said that any better. In addition, hey, this is the point in camp. Guys had a lot of soft tissue injuries. Another day to kind of get back healthy, too.
Yeah, and I think the day off yesterday, after the day off on Wednesday, allowed the coaches to feel comfortable with asking the guys to come out today in pads, and knowing that Saturday is still going to be a turned-up tempo, but after 2 days off, they should be able to go back-to-back days in pads and be able to perform at a very high level in tomorrow's practice in the stadium.
Yeah, I agree.
So these guys should be fairly well rested from a training camp body perspective and be able to, take advantage of the opportunity tomorrow. Because a lot of these guys, let's not forget, September 5th, they got to bring the roster down. Yeah. And with no preseason games, an opportunity like tomorrow for some of these guys who are in those bubble spots on the roster, having 2 days off to come out to tomorrow's practice with a time to really shine could be tremendous for them.
Yeah. We won't have refs, at least it hasn't been clear if we'll have refs tomorrow at the stadium. But we just saw an offsides there. How can you make sure that the team is going to be crisp without having some refs out here? Because, players, if you get hold on a play or, jam a guy or hold a guy downfield, sometimes guys will do that because they don't want to get beat on the play in practice. Whereas in the games, that'll get called and it'll hurt your team.
I think this year, due to this training camp and the lack of offseason, the lack of preseason games, is going to really clearly show the difference between NFL coaching staffs and their attention to detail. Because you don't have – it's almost like a college football environment. When Alabama lines up for the first time, Nick Saban really doesn't know who his team is. Mm-hmm. Vic Fangio is not really going to know who this team is until they line up on the 14th. So their ability to do all the details during training camp, and even something like stopping the film and talking about, hey, man, we don't have refs out there, but this one would have been called.
Right.
And when you're given this situation tomorrow, player X, I can't see you grabbing that tight end's jersey as he's running downfield. That's going to be called. You as a coach have to be really proactive because it's not going to be flagged on the field. You're not going to have the opportunity to have those kind of conversations that you would in training camps past with the officials about, can I get away with this? Can I get away with that? That has to be done by the coaches. So the coaches have to be super detailed, not just about assignment and X's and O's, but also this is how the game is going to be called, and what you did there is outside of that. Therefore, that's going to bring us a penalty, and don't hurt the team.
Yeah, and how guys practice is how guys play.
Yes. I mean, obviously, Steve, you've been around defensive backs who hold every play.
Oh, man.
They look great in practice because there's no refs out there, but come game time, you get 2 flags thrown on you.
Not again.
You've hurt the team. You've given them another first. Penalties on third down. That actually loses games for you because you've stopped them on third down, but you got a penalty. Now you gave them a first down, another chance to keep this drive going. You do that too many times in the course of a ball game, either defensively where you give them another opportunity or you take away your opportunity on offense with a penalty. You prematurely end or extend those drives. You're giving away points when you do that. So, the smarter teams who are able to handle this no refs during training camp, that's really going to be important because penalties lose games, and your ability to stay penalty-free or at least have very few is critically important.
Now, do you believe that the quarterback, deep down the middle, Albert touchdown. Justin would have gotten a nice hit on him, but I think that still would have been a catch and touchdown.
The ball, could have had a little bit more length on it just to keep the safeties out of it. But nice job, nice connection between Drew Lock and Alberto. I wonder where that connection came from.
They've done that several times in the past at University of Missouri.
Yes, absolutely. And Alberto looked very comfortable tracking that ball over his shoulder. Looked very comfortable doing that.
So, Chad, again, tomorrow, this has been fun. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up here. Where can people find you? What are you up to? What do you want people to know about you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at ChadBrown94. So I'm usually doing something, football related, or I'm doing something animal related with my different animal related businesses.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to getting back with the 9 News team tomorrow. Rod Mackey and Mike Kliss and myself will be at the stadium broadcasting tomorrow's stadium practice. And then I will set off doing my football media stuff this fall. I'm lucky enough to have Tampa Bay at New Orleans week 1 for Compass Media. So Tom Brady at Drew Brees to start off the season week 1.
Oh, man.
Man, how lucky can an NFL media guy be? I mean, I get to talk about those 2 guys, so I'm looking forward to that week 1. And so throughout the season, I'll be calling football, both NFL and college, mostly for Compass Media Radio, but looking forward to just seeing some football. It's been such an odd season, obviously with the pandemic, no preseason, but we're finally here getting close. And that football time clock I have in my head every year, it's been delayed due to the pandemic, but here we are, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, wait, man. We'll be checking you out, Chad. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming on again. Amazing job, and continued success, my friend.
Well, always good to be on with a Hall of Famer like you, Steve.
All right. Over to you, Matt Boyer.
Thank you very much, Steve. 2 defensive stalwarts sharing the same stage. Love to see that. All right. Broncos Country, if you missed anything from today's practice, you can head to denverbroncos.com or our Denver Broncos social channels. After practice, we expect to be hearing a couple of players as well as Coach Fangio at the podium. Following practice as well, of course, we've got training camp tonight, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 20. Alexis Perry will be breaking down all of today's action. Again, 6:30 p.m. locally here on Channel 20, and then 7 p.m. on our Broncos YouTube channel. And then, of course, we mentioned it earlier. Steve just mentioned it as well as Chad. The stadium practice. The Broncos are going to be getting a great look at the stadium atmosphere, what things could be like on a game day. It's not a scrimmage, more of just a run-through to kind of get the juices flowing, getting ready for game day. 3:15 p.m. on KOA, and then 7 p.m. on Channel 20 KUSA will have that broadcast. And then, of course, Broncos Training Camp Live, powered by Ford. We're back on Monday. We're off tomorrow and off Sunday, but we are back on Monday morning at 9:15 a.m. Make sure you check back to denverbroncos.com and our social channels for the latest information. We're keeping you in suspense, all right? It's the last week of training camp, so we're starting things off with a bit of a surprise, a special guest on Monday. I can tell you that Steve has a couple of Ring of Famers next week. You know what? I've already said too much. We're keeping you in suspense. On Monday, we're going to have a special guest joining Steve Atwater down on 27 Hall of Fame Plaza. That'll do it for us today on Broncos Training Camp Live. Special thanks to Chad Brown, Sidney Jones, and Steve Atwater. I'm Matt Boyer. Thank you so much for watching Broncos Country. We will see you guys tonight.
Training Camp Live, powered by Ford, has been brought to you by Betfred, Bud Light Seltzer, Ford, and by USAA.